What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul and I do videos about my life in Japan, which is where I've lived for the past 18 years. And I also do videos about one of my passions, which is sneakers. And if you watched my video from about a week and a half ago, I did a review of the Union LA Dunk Lows, which were in that beautiful blue colorway, which is my personal favorite of the three. And I liked them so much, I doubled up and got a second pair. However, I made a mistake. Now, the content creator in me thinks, well, okay, that's going to be good content at least, but no one wants to get duped. And I actually managed to find myself with a pair of fakes or replicas or whatever you want to call them. But I didn't pay a replica price for them, which is why I'm not so happy about it. I mean, whatever you think about replicas, fakes, if you pay less money to rock something because you want to have that particular pair of shoes, I'm not going to judge. I just don't like it if I'm sold a pair of replicas for the price of the real deal. That doesn't seem right. So that's where I am on that. But what I want to talk about today is the difference between the two pairs, and I'm going to let you know that at least with this particular pair, it was not difficult to quickly see that they are not the real thing. Like, even if I didn't have a real pair to compare it to, I would have known. So I'm going to go step by step how I opened this box and went into looking at these particular sneakers to understand that they were not real. And believe you me, I've watched a lot of real versus fake videos on YouTube, and I'm always kind of struck with this anxiety, like, is he going to mix them up? Is he going to make a mistake? Which one is the real and which one is the replica? And so it's never really clear from, the video and the editing. I could have a friend mix these up, and just a few moments looking at them, I'd be able to tell you which one is real and which one is not. So let's get into why. Just putting the real ones aside for the moment so we can do a comparison with them later if it's really necessary, but might not be. I'm going to open this up. And I started first with the box, of course. And I'm going to be honest with you, at first everything looked really right. Now you might be wondering, how did I end up with a fake pair to begin with? I bought them through Yahoo Auctions, which, if you don't know, when the auction websites had a fight in Japan and the US, eBay won in America and Yahoo Auctions won in Japan. So that's the big one here. I went through auctions and I've, until now, not gotten burned. But this time I made a major error. I broke one of the cardinal rules, which was I bought from someone who had no feedback at all. And there's no legit check service like eBay has started in the States. And it was just a matter of the fact I didn't scroll down and look at the feedback of the person. No excuse. It was completely my miss. I filed a report. I might get my money back. I might not. We will see. But starting with the box itself, at first, well, I'll put the other one up here for comparison. At first, there wasn't anything that stood out to me as being that off. Like this one, if anything, maybe appears a little more bleached out, like the colors aren't as vibrant, but the difference is so subtle that it just didn't really occur to me. And I was looking at them side by side right from the beginning. It wasn't until I got to the shoes themselves that I was like, oh yeah, this is not legit. Inside the box, of course, you have the paper. I did a comparison of the paper, and the paper really looks legit. Like, all of the passport stamps are in the right place, and they have the right numbers, and they have kind of the right pattern. And again, the colors didn't look that off to me. So before getting to the shoes, I was thinking, okay, maybe this was all right. And the guy that sent them, or gal that sent them, I don't know, they provided like paperwork, copies of the paperwork. The box they sent it in has a postmark, which would have been the date that the real Unions would have actually been delivered. So I'm thinking maybe they got a real pair or got their hands on a box with all the right stickers on it, shipping box. So they tried really hard to be convincing. Okay, first, the the famous smell check. First, the real pair. It just smells like materials. It smells like cloth and paper, and just, it's got a new shoe smell that you get from pretty much all legit shoes. There's nothing strong about the smell. It just kind of hits the nose pleasantly. I don't know how else to describe it. It's hard to describe smells, but it's much easier to describe the smell of these because, first of all, it's much stronger, and it smells like an open container of glue, to be perfectly honest. That's the best way to describe it. This one doesn't have as strong a chemically smell as some fake shoes that I've smelled, but it's definitely a pronounced glue smell by comparison. Yeah, there's definitely a difference. So if you're getting something that's really strongly chemical or really strong glue smell, that's usually a bad sign. But you can't get past how the shoes themselves actually look. Now, pulling them out of the box, nothing really looks amiss, but this material, which is not leather on the Union Dunks, this material over the top, basically this kind of cargo net fiber that they used, you know, it looks smooth and looks pretty nice, to be honest. But just running my hands over the toe box and the side panels, it's got weird bumps and ridges. And so when I first pulled these out and had them in hand, like the material underneath, whatever leather is underneath there, is just bumpy and ridgy, just doesn't feel right. And I pulled out the legit pair and it's just smooth and feels like it's quality material underneath, which you do not get from this. I took a look at the tags and I compared the tags, and there wasn't really anything I could really tell the difference. Maybe once again, kind of a strength of color might be a little bit different, but they pretty much got the tags legit looking correct. The next thing after feeling that kind of bumpy material underneath was I inspected the stitching around the outside. It looks right until I get to this molding underneath the Union logo. And suddenly the stitching is just, it's molded over the stitching. Like, it's not regular. It's really messy and poorly done. So that was my next clue. Something may not be right here. Insoles look fine, tongue looked fine, and then I pulled out the other pair of shoes, and while this one, the molding around the outside is apparently more regular than the left shoe, when you get to the back, there's actually stitches poking out, like sticking out instead of being recessed within the molding on either side, which is definitely wrong. You know, you shouldn't have stitches popping out anywhere. So, okay, now I'm thinking they don't feel right, the stitching doesn't look right, and I had just acquired a Blacklight from Amazon, Amazon Japan, and seriously, if you are getting sneakers and you're not sure you're getting it from a legit source, this was $8, $9. It's worth every penny if it's going to save you, save your life, so to speak. If you watched like real versus fake videos before, you might look for weird stamps that have been put onto the shoes. Well, the Blacklight didn't reveal anything like that. The first initial look of the Blacklight all over the shoe didn't turn up anything in particular. It seemed like maybe there was a little too much glue staining around the sole, but I've looked at legit Dunks and the glue staining can be a pretty normal thing, so that in itself is not a real factor. But at this point, if you've got things adding up, if you've got things that just aren't right, and it's more than one thing, you know, trust your instinct on that. But the kicker was then I found ghost stitching, or basically the stitch marks that show that the fake factories use to kind of show where the stitching needs to go and how it needs to be laid. Running the Blacklight over the toe boxes, I can see white stitching within the toe box area, and that stood out to me immediately. So I pulled out the legit pair, and not only did I immediately notice there was no stitching to be seen anywhere, but the actual panels were put together in a manner that just looked far more regular. And I was like, why would there be exposed stitching on these but not on these? And I realized that was the nail in the coffin, so to speak. These were definitely not legit. Just, you could maybe say, you know, Nike will have quality control issues from time to time, but not to this extent. To have this bumpy, nasty leather underneath the material, to have the ghost stitching in the toe, and to have like irregular seams and stitching around the sole and outside. So all of those things together made it pretty clear that these were not a legit pair. I read online that there's a couple other ways to tell, another couple things to look at, and one of them is that logo, the Union logo, that it will appear more robust, like a darker color on the legit. I can't tell the difference looking at them. I have no idea that there's any difference in between them. And you have to remember, when you're dealing stuff like this, you know, replicas are made in different factories. They're not all coming from the same place, and within the same factory you're probably dealing with really shoddy quality control there as well, meaning some might come out looking really, really legit, and others will come out looking kind of meh, or not quite right. And of course, the particular things I found on this pair may not be the same flaws or issues you find on yours, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the way to find a fake pair of Unions, but those are some things to look for. How do the materials feel? Do the colors match up? Is the stitching correct? Are there some weird problems with the plastic molding? Do the tags look correct? Are there any differences in the colors of the box and paper? These are all things you can look at, and if you just haven't mounting pieces of evidence that things aren't right, it's quite possible that they aren't. And again, get one of these. They're not expensive. You may have held off because you're like, I don't want to spend money on a tool, but it's going to save your life potentially. Let me know if this was helpful or useful for you at all. This is just what I found on a particular pair. Hopefully you don't have to end up with a pair like this, and whatever you buy ends up being legit. And if you found this video useful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more sneaker content or content about my life in Japan if that is also of interest to you. But thank you so very much for watching this particular video. Hope it helped, and I will catch you next time. Peace.